All right, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of the Coast to Coast podcast. As usual, I'm joined by Cousin Phil. We have a returning guest, second time on the show, Mike Lennon. We're looking forward to discussing some Packers stuff. Obviously, there's a big pay-per-view event last night, and we'll end with some NBA talk. Again, this is episode 40 of the Coast to Coast podcast. Thinks the earth is flat, so it never sat well with me.
Do you want a company that refuses to use your call box?
Or have to be patient. I don't understand why Chelsea gave him the tax so quickly.
You want to know who's the cheap shot spread? Christian Leighton. You want to know who everybody talks about? Christian Leighton. You want to know who's one of the best basketball players ever in college? Christian Leighton.
All right, before we launch into this, I want to give two special shout-outs. First shout-out is to Eric Wells, normally one of our co-hosts here, but he is very busy right now. His high school baseball team is a varsity coach at Marshwood High School in Maine. They have, I believe it's a Final Four state playoff game tomorrow. They're going up against one of the best teams in Maine. Eric said the coach they're going up against has been the best coach in Maine for like the last 15 years. So they're having a good year. It's a great chance for him. This is his first legitimate full non-COVID season there. So Eric, we wish you the best of luck. We're looking forward to you getting back on. A second shout out, U.S. men's national soccer team. Obviously, probably the majority of Americans were not watching this because there were some other big things on TV, and majority of Americans don't really pay attention to soccer in this country, which is sad for me, but whatever. U.S. men's national team came from behind to beat Mexico in extra time to win the Nations Championship, Nations League final. Not totally sure what the Nations League is. I mean, I kind of know it's this new thing they're trying to do. But anytime we beat Mexico, there's some of the most enjoyable international soccer matches there are. Hostile fans, a couple players got smacked with full water bottles. Fans were throwing projectiles, beers. Obviously, if you watch the NBA, you know it's a big deal. And soccer kind of just happens all the time, and the players just deal with it instead of crying about it. So, but shout out to the U.S. men's national team. Congratulations on the win. All right, Mike, thanks for joining us. If you're not familiar, we had Mike on, what was it, like a year ago?
It wasn't that long ago.
Was it? Was it this winter?
It was this winter.
It was this winter. So Mike has his own podcast, the Berg Boys. It's pretty good. They get a lot of listeners. Mike, I'll let you plug it at the end of the show, but they do a pretty good job there. Mike's from Wisconsin, big Packers fan, and we had Mike on, we'll say a while ago. We'll keep it vague. And we had a pretty good discussion, and it was basically
I think it was before Tom Brady won another Super Bowl.
I'm not sure if you guys want to call that. That was like just an attack. Basically, both of you I thought we were just coming here to kind of shoot the shit, and then both you guys had like prepared, just both barrels coming right at me. So I appreciate that.
I didn't know you were coming. Greg's like, hey, we're having a debate, and I was like, well, I got to do my homework, and I got to go over a couple of things. One, Greg just casually throwing a jab at players being concerned about bottles being thrown at them. I was like, is that what we're doing here? Like, that needs to be addressed. I do not share that sentiment. No fans of any sporting event should be throwing projectiles.
No, they shouldn't. No, they should get arrested. But you know what? All the soccer players got on with it. It wasn't the headlines. The headline was about the result.
No,
the headline,
Greg, the headline's about the result because no one cares about soccer. Like, I'm being honest. Like, that would have been major news if it was a sport people cared about. And like, when I did Google it, that was like a big part of the story. But it was in Mexico, right?
No, it was in Colorado, I think. It
was in Colorado?
It was in the U.S.
It was in the U.S.
It's bad. U.S. national games against Mexico when they're in the U.S. It's like a road game for them. It's terrible.
Wow. Okay. Well, then I don't know what I was going to say, but we do not condone throwing of water bottles. And the second thing is that I wanted to rewind a little bit because last episode on the show, me and Greg made a bet. And for those of you who don't know, the bet is Greg is coming out next week to visit. And it is whoever can run my wife versus Greg on the best time for 3 miles. And the stakes are if Greg loses, he has to basically have dog duty the whole time he's here, cleaning up Archer's poops, taking him out for walks. Archer's getting the snip, so he might be on drugs. We don't know how he's going to act, but Greg's going to be over that. If he wins, I'm going to cover his beer tab. So Greg has been training, and I just wanted to check in with you, Greg. How are you doing? Wait, how's your run time?
it's good because I've been training for running, not for my beer tab that I want to stick you with. But it's okay. I don't know. Is Ashley training? I have no idea.
Wait, so how far are you guys running?
It's 3 miles.
Okay.
So, Mike, you want to get in on this, or have Greg have another side bet on this action?
I'm gonna go with Greg. He's been for the past, I would say, probably pretty much his full school year. You've been pretty dedicated in the gym, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Greg just on the fact that I know he's putting in a little bit of work.
Wow. Okay.
I'm definitely in better shape than I was last year. I don't know if it's going to be enough because I'd imagine Ashley and her profession and just knowing her, I'm willing to bet she's going to put up a pretty good time there.
Okay.
But, all right, let's launch into this here. We want to talk more Packers, Aaron Rodgers. There's been plenty of drama. I think that's fair to say. But before we do, we started this new segment this time around. I forget what we call it. I guess rapid fire. Yeah, and we're going to start with this because it's going to be for Mike. All the questions are going to be for Mike. I'll let Philip explain it, but we're starting with this because we don't want you to already answer any of these questions. So Philip, I'll let you explain what you're about to do here.
So Mike, I'm going to hit you with several questions. They're all yes or no answers. It has to be first response. If you start to pause, I'm just going to start reading the next question. So you got to get them out there. Greg's going to be taking a mark of it. Last time we did it, Greg said that Brad Stevens should be fired. And he said a lot of stuff that was pretty irate. So we get that first reaction. And then we're going to go into that with some Packers questions. So are you ready, Mike?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Okay. Here we go. Should Brian go?
Hold on. Are these true, false?
They're all Packers. Yes or no?
Yeah. Okay. Yes
or no.
Okay. Here we go.
And how do you pronounce the last name of the GM?
I just call him Goot.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. Are you ready then?
Yep.
Should Goot be fired?
No.
Is Matt LaFleur to blame for kicking a field goal down 7 points?
Yes.
Should Aaron Rodgers host Jeopardy? Retire and host Jeopardy?
No.
Will Jordan Love ever take the Packers to a Super Bowl? Will the Packers win 10 games without Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Is Aaron Rodgers a starting QB for Green Bay next year?
Yes.
Will the Packers win more than 12 games with Aaron Rodgers?
Yes.
Should the Packers have traded for Julio?
No.
If Rodgers forces a trade, will Packers fans come to hate him?
Yes.
If Rodgers forces a trade, will the Packers fans still root for him?
No.
No. And if Rodgers goes to New England, let's go back to the one you missed. Will Jordan Love ever take the Packers to the Super Bowl?
Yes.
If Rodgers goes to New England, will Greg do a complete 180 on all of his Rodgers takes?
Yes. 100% he will.
Oh man, that was good.
Well, let's go into this. So you said Brian shouldn't be, or he shouldn't be fired, or should? What was it, Greg?
He should not.
He said he shouldn't be fired.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing. So this is, I think it's year 3. No, yeah, it's year 3 for Goot. He's coming off. So we're coming off of 2 13-3 records, 2 NFC championship. Where this franchise was before Goot came in, the Packers. I think I talked about this last time as well. That we never really went out and spent they're still not really going out and getting those big name free agents. But we were able to do that with the Smith brothers almost a couple years ago. And where the Packers were before Goot got here, we had Ted Thompson, who he recently passed away this year, but he was getting just towards the end of it. Goot came in, he did a lot of different things. Obviously, him, was able to hire Matt LaFleur as well. He was part of that. Had some pretty good drafts, I would say, for the most part. But yeah, I would, Goot has a lot. He's done a lot more than I think people think to get this team where it is right now. And I would not. I would not fire him whatsoever.
Are you calling the GM by that name? Is I feel like that's almost like
it's an inside joke with the podcast that we have. We call him Goot. So
I wasn't sure if it was an affectionate name or if it's just no one wants to say him by the last name. Like Julian Edelman, everyone says Jules, and that's because we love him. Like no one that hates Julian Edelman calls him Jules.
Yeah. No, I think it's just a little easier to say.
Yeah.
All right,
and so with the whole Rodgers saga, for the people listening to, and this is what I'm kind of curious, could you just give us the Rodgers saga from a Packers fan perspective?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back, like if you guys might even remember this too, like they lost in his press conference after Tom Brady defeated Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field this year. He was kind of making some, well, I don't have the direct quotes in front of me, but he was kind of making some different comments, just saying like, well, it's not going to be the same team, or it's not going to be the same moving forward here. And, and then we don't hear anything. And then obviously the big news was with Adam Schefter that came out, and we can talk about that if you guys want.
I do, because
not a huge Adam Schefter fan whatsoever, but yeah. So then obviously we have all this stuff coming out. We've yet to really hear from the Packers or Aaron Rodgers himself. Like, yes, he did the Kenny Mayne thing a couple weeks ago. There's, he never really came out and said what he's really thinking. Like, he talked about, like, the only thing that really struck with me with that whole thing was he made the comments about, like, it's about people, like the organization are about people. And he kept saying like about people. But yeah, I've seen rumors that they're in, like the Packers have offered him a huge deal. He wants, or restructuring. He wants a new deal to basically put him, as a Packer, maybe for life. There's obviously a lot of other rumors coming out as well. But I think the biggest thing for me is, if you guys turn on ESPN or whatever, like it's literally Aaron Rodgers every single day. And the biggest thing for me is, like, I'm really just hoping that it's never going to happen. I'm sure that I wish the Packers would either just come out and say, like, what's really going on, or maybe they're not because they're trying to work something out here with a new deal or whatever. But until something actually happens, like, I'm literally to the point where I'm a little over it now.
So you talked a little bit about Adam Schefter, and I actually listened to your guys' show when you guys talked about this, and yep. I think I chimed in a couple times in the comments. Actually, I think I chimed in a lot.
Yeah, you were driving across the country.
Yeah, I wasn't driving at the time, for the record. Lauren was driving, but
or throwing water bottles at people.
I was not throwing water bottles at people either. I feel like Packers Nation was very hard on Adam Schefter and saying, like, almost he's wrong. He's got nothing to go on about this. But then Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up to OTAs, which obviously they're optional. He doesn't have to show up. But Aaron Rodgers could put this whole thing. He could come out and be like, I don't know what Adam Schefter was talking about. Like, let's go win a Super Bowl. Like, he's had so much time and so many opportunities to kind of put this thing to rest. And he's not. So I feel like Adam Schefter was in the right, but Packers Nation still thinks he's in the wrong.
And that I forget who. So Schefter, like 2 weeks after that, came on. Who's the guy? He's in some movies. He's got the talk show. So does Dan Patrick have a talk show?
Dan Patrick does.
Yeah. So he came out. I think it was Dan Patrick, and he came out and basically said, like, Rodgers camp did not give me this info. The Packers did not give me this info. I just basically went on not a hunch, but like stuff that he was really collecting. And then obviously, of course, like the thing that pissed me off is, like, he's out, and I get why he did it. Like, he did it first day of the draft, so you have all these people that are glued on. Like, it's obviously going to be the biggest story of the day. Yeah. It's also it kind of took away a little bit of, like, the actual draft itself, because everybody's like, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be traded or whatever.
But that's his job. His job is to be an inside source. And he said correctly, like, if I didn't say this then, someone else was going to. And that's how these guys at his level make a living.
Well, here's the thing. I think that Adam Schefter can be right and wrong at the same point, in the sense that, like you were saying, he came out later and was like, well, it's not information that I gained that day. I didn't get it from the Rodgers camp. It was information that he kind of had that he was sitting on. And I think it was wildly unprofessional to release that on draft day, because he was worried that someone else might eventually, because it created this story in the side plot for a while that was, oh, the Rodgers is trying to hijack the draft to make it all about him. like that he was releasing that information to Adam Scheffler and he was trying to hijack the draft to take it all about him, and painted Rodgers for a while before this story broke otherwise as this kind of villain in the sense of like why like diva of trying to bring attention to himself when he wasn't, where this is just him posting it like on the draft day, Adam Scheffler to bring like for himself to get his own attention, to get his own moment. And I thought that was pretty unfair to Aaron Rodgers to release it on that day and to be able to create that narrative around him. And I do think there's probably some truth to what he's saying. And I wanted to go back to something you mentioned earlier. Aaron Rodgers kept commenting about people. As a Packers fan, when you hear that, when he keeps going back to that, what do you think? Who is he talking about?
Well, he's obviously talking about Goot and Mark Murphy, who's like, the Packers don't have an owner, so he's like our president, I think he is, president of the Packers. But it's weird because his teammates are people as well, which he skipped out on. Was it OTAs last week, and then I think tomorrow, as they have another camp coming up here, which he's not expected to be at. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's a really weird. It's bringing back a lot of memories from like the Brett Favre saga. Like they're both similar but different, because with Brett Favre, you had, oh, I'm going to retire. Oh, I'm not going to retire. Oh, I'm going to retire. Oh, I'm not. Well, now, yes, I am for sure. Okay, well, we drafted Aaron Rodgers. He's in year 3 now. He's our guy. Well, okay, I'm not going to retire. And then he comes back, and then we trade him to the Jets and ends up obviously going to the Vikings. But it's on the flip side of it, and I'll say this too, like and Greg, I know you're the same way because we talked about this before. Like, I'm a Packers fan first. Like, obviously I love Aaron Rodgers. He is my favorite NFL player, but I'm a Packers fan first. Like, I grew up, obviously watching games with my parents, and I'm obviously, going to be cheering for the Packers, but it would be obviously if Rodgers does move to a different team, it's going to be hard to definitely cheer for him, I think.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that Goot shouldn't be fired. Do you think Aaron Rodgers thinks he should be?
Those are the rumors and stuff. It would be.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, as a Packers fan, what's the vibe? What do you fans like? Aaron Rodgers, like,
you're our Adam Schefter. Don't worry about hard evidence.
Like, what's the feeling that when you're talking with Packers fans, do you feel like, Rodgers wants this guy gone, or is it can you give me some insight there?
I would say, I think he, like, obviously drafting Jordan Love really pissed him off. And he obviously went out and showed that he can obviously still play at a very high level. And he talked about it, like, in his, this brings up what I was trying to say before. In his last press conference, he said that towards the end of the year, he thinks he threw a wrench into like the Packers' plans, obviously having the year he did. But if you go back and like look at his stats, like he was still performing at a high level, but he was declining a little bit.
It's only one quarterback that's done big things at an advanced age, and that's Tom Brady. So I don't understand why anyone would get upset about a franchise planning a little bit long term.
And that's exactly what the Packers did between Favre to Rodgers, and we've had 2 generational quarterbacks for, was it 32 years now?
But also in that same breath, you think they'd be like, hey, remember how that Favre and Rodgers thing turned out? Like, that didn't end well. Like, that was hard on everyone. Why are we doing this again? Like, I'm declining, but I'm still one of the top QBs in the league. Like, Drew Brees still performed at 40, and he had a massive decline, and they weren't planning his replacement like Jordan Love. I couldn't believe they took him when they did. But I want to go back to when we talk about the people you mentioned. So it's kind of unsure. I mean, there's been some shots that, Rodgers might want Goot gone. But what about Matt LaFleur? Because you said, yes, Matt LaFleur is to blame for kicking a field goal down 7. And I was talking, I'm not sure if you were thinking in regards to Rodgers leaving or wanting to leave. Do you think that that's a piece of it? Rodgers, like, this coach did this, like, I can't trust him, I want out, or is that different?
No, those two are really tight. I follow way too many. I follow probably 50 Packers like beat writers and just people that, Packers people that tweet, and just seeing like the videos and the way that they obviously talk to each other or talk about each other. And on it, I really think that LaFleur is the main reason for the kind of the resurgence of the Rodgers career. Because if you look back to the last couple of years with Mike McCarthy, that was obviously a dumpster fire, big time. But obviously the first year with LaFleur, you could kind of see it coming together, and then obviously it really this year it really came together. So no, I think their relationship is very close, and I hope we can see it for at least another year or two.
If Rodgers is gone, what does next season look like with Jordan Love?
That's the thing. So we're actually talking about this on our next podcast. The thing is we have, and this is where I really just don't get where Rodgers is really thinking. You have arguably a top 5 running back in Aaron Jones.
Yeah.
You have probably the best left tackle in David Bakhtiari, one of probably top 3 left tackles in the game.
It's a top 10 offensive line.
You have a great offensive line. You have Devontae Adams. You have a couple of rising, I would say, wide receivers as well. The defense is obviously our cornerback situation. We drafted one in the first round this year, but you have Jair Alexander, Amos, the Smith brothers. You have a great team. What was your question again? Sorry.
what does this season look like without Aaron Rodgers? Hypothetically,
I do. Just the way that the NFC North is, I do think the Packers would still make the playoffs.
Yeah, Craig, did he say on speed around, did he say the Packers would win 10 games without Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah.
Did?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's confidence.
Yeah. No,
because just the, like, if you look at, like, obviously Rodgers but like we have so many good young pieces that, especially with the defense, hopefully kind of turning a corner right now, but the pieces are in place.
So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because I was going to point out the wide receiver corps, running back, very good offensive line. A lot of this doesn't make sense to me. Aaron Rodgers can make all the comments he wants about the people. He's not getting any younger, and as far as I'm concerned, he's got one of the better. He's got a roster that's ready to win now. So
yeah, it gives him one of the best chances to win.
You can dislike the GM all you want, but I just feel like the timing of this, I just don't understand it. And I guess I never went through something like this with any of my favorite athletes, so it's kind of unfair of me to judge, but I feel like Packers fans are just kind of like, whatever. And I don't understand why people aren't a little bit more frustrated with what he's doing right now. Because to me, this is just, go ahead.
Cool. Can I say something before, like, when we're bringing this up, like that Aaron Rodgers is doing, right? Again, this was an Adam Scheffler report that Aaron Rodgers didn't
Aaron Rodgers could put an end to all this. He could put an end to this right now. He could go on and say, "There's no drama. I'm ready to win right now." Every company, every workplace in the world has a little bit of dysfunction. Nothing new here. Let's go win. I took OTAs off. I'm old. I'm not getting any younger. He could put all this to rest. He could give his teammates, the coaching staff, organization, all the confidence in the world in what's happening in the future. He hasn't. And it's intentional that he hasn't.
So, Mike, why is Aaron Rodgers doing this to you?
I'm not sure, but it's pissing me off too.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
It's hard because, and I think I was texting Greg about this, like, if you're out, well, let's get ready for, I'll buy a Jordan Love jersey right now. Like, let's move on. I think, I really hope that he, because again, I'm a Packer fan first before anything else. Like, I want the Packers to obviously go on and succeed. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, like, that's why I'm so sick of it, is because it's all of this. Oh, he's getting traded to Denver, or here are the top 5 teams where Rodgers is going to go. Like, you see all this stuff every morning, and it's like, well, he's not saying anything. The Packers aren't saying anything either. Like, the only thing LaFleur is really saying is obviously, like, he wants him back. He wants to coach him for, another couple of years or whatever. But yeah, I think that's what's most frustrating, is because it's really all just this hearsay, and I really just want him to jump on like Pat McAfee, like he did throughout the year, and just
put it to rest.
Exactly.
Let the fan base know what's going on.
And if he's leaving, he's leaving. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And I think it was the owner of the Precedent. He said that Aaron Rodgers is dividing the fans. Is that accurate? Do you feel like fans are being divided by Aaron Rodgers in regards to this? Was that an accurate statement?
I think I'll have to double check, but I think okay, should look at that. But it was
was it misquoted?
It was misquoted. I was reading that on Twitter today. I think it was. And people were like blowing that
terrible
up.
thing to say at this time.
Yeah, it was like taken out of text. I remember what you're looking at though, but no, I just going like thinking back to like the whole Favre situation. Like you kind of did have like, okay, half the people that, I'm still a big Brett Favre fan, and then you had half the other people that were like, okay, I'm still just a Packers fan. Like Brett Favre can go, whatever.
And you said that if Rodgers forces a trade, will Packers fans come to hate him? And you said yes.
I remember that. I want more than that.
I do too.
Well, and this is why I said it before, like how it's so like I don't view Brett Favre the same way. Like when like the way that all went down, I don't, and I feel like if he's here demanding a trade, like I just don't. It just doesn't add up. Like the things that we talked about. You have a great roster here. You do play in in one of the most historic franchises, I guess, in the NFL. It is obviously in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, but you have everything in place. You played your whole career there. I think the biggest thing, and this brings up another point where it's AJ Hawk, who's an ex-teammate, John Kuhn, who's one of his ex-teammates. James Jones, they also talked about legacy. Like Rodgers is big on like having like the legacy talks, and I think he really wants to be like in his Kenny Mayne thing. He talked about how he loves Green Bay, he loves the fans, he loves everything about Wisconsin.
A lot to love.
I think the thing for him is more of just like maybe he does want to ride it out just and end his career in Green Bay, but I don't know. There's so many rumors and stuff going on.
I got one last question for you before we move on to last night's debacle on television. But Phil, do you have anything else you want to ask Mike here?
Well, I wanted to ask, who do people love more, Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers?
Oh, that is a tough question. You know what?
50, is that dividing? Is that 50-50?
You know what? It
Give me
is
the
because like,
percentage.
you had like so prime example is my dad, huge Brett Favre guy. Like we obviously he grew up watching him. I grew up watching Brett Favre, but like just with the whole situation with Favre, like my dad is like definitely a Brett Favre guy, number one, and then and we're on the opposite. Like I'm definitely Aaron Rodgers one, and then Brett
Kind
Favre
of a generational pick.
Yeah,
that makes sense. My question was, so just to recap the timeline here, we had Mike on our show well before the last NFL season happened, and like I said, it was a lot of Brady versus Rodgers stuff. Can you emotionally, how did you feel watching Tom Brady?
I wasn't gonna do this. I was not gonna do this to you.
Phil, thank you. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate it.
I was gonna be like, man, tough losses I don't like talking about for my own teams. I was like, Greg wouldn't do this. But he would.
So what's the question, Greg?
I just want to know, like, emotionally, what was that like? And I wasn't a jerk. I didn't like text you all night when that game happened.
Maybe you did text him though, and he had to say like, not now.
How did it feel for you though?
Oh, dodging the question, but also a good question. So I'm on the kind of opposite from what you think Packers fans are. And you're like, I look at and also Tom Brady gave us way more championships, but I look at what Tom Brady gave New England. I had to sneak that in there. But
Tom Brady and a couple of good defenses, but go ahead.
What Tom Brady gave New England, I'm like, all right, this guy, he can do whatever he wants at this point. Like, he's not getting any younger. It's freezing cold in the wintertime. Like,
it's different. The Pats said no, where Rodgers could be forcing a trade. Right, Brady didn't force his way out. He was a free agent. He gave the Patriots an opportunity, and they basically passed. Yeah. And then we're like, okay, that's fine, go on. And we were able to root for them. I do think it's different if Brady a year or two ago is forcing the team trade. He has a contract. He's saying the stuff. It's not coming out. It's different. I mean, we both thought he was going to re-sign with New England, and he didn't. But I feel like it's two different situations.
He bought into everything.
And Mike, you don't have to.
For a long time.
Well, we had that conversation. It's interesting too because with Mike last time, and Aaron Rodgers goes out, lights the league up, is the front runner for MVP. Tom Brady struggles a little, but then Tom Brady, ends up winning the Super Bowl. So it's kind of these like flip things of, Aaron Rodgers regular season doing his thing, being recognized as the best in the league for that season, and then Tom Brady doing his thing and just winning the Super Bowl. And that game, like watching it, you said Matt LaFleur was to blame. I don't know what the Packers were doing. Like, I feel like it's less about losing to Tom Brady. Like my feelings, I don't know what it is for you, Mike, about losing to Tom Brady as like having your coach lose the game.
Well, the biggest, like, there's obviously other factors. Like, if you guys remember that game, it's hurting me to go back to that, Greg. So thank you for that.
I didn't think it was going to be a big discussion. My bad.
that touchdown, like those couple bombs that they had, like the one before halftime to, I forget. Maybe it was it wasn't Antonio Brown because he wasn't playing that game. Forget who it was. Like that was just
Is that Scotty Miller?
I think it was.
I think
like just plays like that. It's just like.
I don't think we've seen Tom Brady throw a 40-yard pass all year.
No, you haven't seen that all year. But, yeah, it was just I don't know. It was just a weird game. And I thought this year, and we talked about this last podcast, this was the first year that Aaron Rodgers had a home NFC championship game, and we still didn't get it done. So,
all right, I apologize for bringing that.
We'll see.
Up. That was rude.
Well, wait, I did have one more
brought
question.
in all this data or anything. I was just...
do Packers fans at all think part of this is his new fiance and her trying to get him to LA to live there? Anything? Because some people speculate that. I don't know if Packers fans are really buying into that, or they're like, oh, it's this one. Like, is that like a real narrative, or is that just some media spinoffs and beat writers and things like that?
It was. So one of my other buddies that I'm on the podcast with, he says, I want Danica Rodgers back instead of Cheyenne. But no, like, and there's been some videos like he was out in Hawaii, like just like strumming a guitar. Like I don't know. I feel like people have no clue who Aaron Rodgers is at all. Like he's very unique. He also looks like he's only weighs like $140, like soaking wet right now. So that might be a little bit of an issue. So yeah, I don't really buy into that too much.
I don't blame you.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. And this segment will be quick. There was obviously a big fight last night. Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. Was it Jake Paul? Logan Paul? I get the two confused.
Logan
Paul.
Logan
Paul. Logan Paul, the big YouTube personality. I feel like everyone
slightly
on the
less douchey than the other one, only slightly.
Oh yeah, very.
I would agree.
Slightly.
I like him a little bit more than his brother.
I would say I dislike him a little bit less than his brother.
Yeah, that's how I would phrase it.
I can't. With some of the stunts these guys have pulled, I don't consider them good people. It drives me crazy that people can get rich like this. But anyways, Floyd Mayweather 50-0, and did either of you guys watch the fight?
No.
So I did not pay for it, but I was just on Twitter and I saw like kind of like a live link for it. I watched 3 rounds of it, and it was. I feel so sorry for anybody that bought that paid. You paid for it?
No,
it's
Greg.
Worse. Paid twice because Showtime doesn't know how to get their stuff working correctly. So working on trying to get a refund right now. I wanted to see him get knocked out. Do you know Chad Ochocinco was on the undercard?
I did see that.
Yeah.
Did you know that he also made like $1 million off that?
All these guys did because of suckers like me. I'm so angry.
I love how Greg's like, man, this guy is terrible and they're bad human beings. But I'm gonna give him my money. Greg's like, they shouldn't be rich. Here's my money. Like, what is that? What kind of cognitive dissonance is talking about how like Logan Paul is terrible, but then you give him your money? I don't understand.
Like, I wanted to see him get knocked out. I wanted to see him get knocked out.
The next day, there's going to be gifts of it and everything like that. You don't have to give him your money to like watch him get knocked out. Like you can watch it 5 minutes later for free.
I feel like I'm at a private TED Talk right now.
Oh my gosh!
Pay-per-view.
People, stop giving Logan Paul your money. Just don't buy it.
It was the biggest joke of a fight ever. Like they were literally hugging the whole time. Maybe 50 punches were thrown, Greg. I mean,
and Greg,
It
I
was
don't know why
terrible.
you're expecting a knockout. Like Mayweather is what?
I know,
How old
Philip.
is he?
I know.
And he's 8 inches shorter and weighs 30 pounds lighter.
It was
And
35.
he hasn't knocked out someone in a really long time. And he's just there
It's
to
a
make money.
YouTuber. And he
Yeah, he's
knew
just there.
America
Yeah,
wanted him to get knocked out.
but
I
nobody's
just thought
gonna
it could
like
happen.
he's gonna like let it go so he can box the other Logan brother and just milk it. If like he knocks him out in the second round, no one's gonna want to pay money. He just wants to dance. He just wants to like make some money. Like, like one of the
Well-
questions like I think you were gonna pose was, is this good for boxing? And absolutely, I can't imagine it is.
I think it's worse for boxing.
Yeah,
It's
I
gotta be
really
terrible.
do. I think it's like I know the Paul brothers are saying like, oh, this is great for boxing. Like they've come out and say that. I think it's the opposite. I think this really hurts boxing doing stuff like this. And Greg, I wish there was a way that you could pull this video up, but I just texted it to you.
I've seen that video.
So it looks like Mayweather legit knocks him out and then like hugs him to make sure that he doesn't fall over.
It's like
and
a
to keep
split.
fighting.
Yeah, it's a split second. There's a couple different angles, and there's another angle where you can kind of see Paul's still like moving his feet, but you can't tell if that's. I don't know. It's questionable. I mean, for the last four
great
rounds,
conspiracy theory.
for the last
it's
4
like-
rounds, that was all Logan Paul was doing, was just hugging him because he knew. I mean, Floyd Mayweather still is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, he is. He is so quick. It's insane. But there is a question. I mean, he might have actually been knocked out at that point. It would have been interesting if there was actual like judges and the referee actually was, taking it 100% seriously, and the fighters were also taking it 100% seriously. I will say, in my defense for ordering the money, I watched the McGregor.
There's no defense.
In my defense, I watched the Mayweather McGregor fight, and it was wildly entertaining. Enjoyed it.
Was. I agree 100% with you. I thought that was very entertaining.
Yes.
What about last night? That was a complete joke.
That was
that was a complete scam. Those guys were both afterwards. They were probably in the locker room just laughing at each other like, after what that was last night.
Yeah, that was so disappointing yesterday. All right, Mike, we're gonna let you go before we move on to the NBA, but we have one last final question for you before you go. We'll call it the big question. It's a multiple choice with only 3 answers: A, B, or C. Who will be the next Packers quarterback to win an NFC championship? Will it be A, Aaron Rodgers, B, Jordan Love, or C, other?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
You heard it here first.
He'll be back. He'll be back. The Packers will. He'll be on Pat McAfee in a couple weeks here. They'll have a come to Jesus, and he'll be back.
I hope for your sake and for the entire sake of Packers Nation. Mike, thanks for joining us again. Mike has his own podcast, The Berg Boys. I believe The Berg Boys. It's on every platform, right? You guys stream it live, Facebook. Do you guys have a certain time where you stream it live, certain days?
We usually go summertime. We're going every other week right now. So we're obviously a lot of Packers stuff, but we touch everything sports related. So we're every other Sunday nights right now.
All right. Were we fair this time? I know we weren't.
You were fair. This was good. This was good.
Mike, I appreciate you coming back on after the traumatizing events of last time. I'm sorry, Greg. Had to bring up more traumatizing events.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
Mike.
See ya.
Take care. Oh man.
All right.
I can't believe you asked them that. Brutal. Imagine someone like coming on and they're like, "Hey, Greg, so when the Giants made the helmet catch, how were you feeling?" I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. We're not
talk about it. I would talk about it. I think it was
relative.
I saved it for the end. I had to. All right, fine. Maybe that was unfair. I apologize if it was unfair.
Yeah, unbelievable.
All right.
This is
Moving on here.
NBA
playoffs. It's been 2 weeks because of a Memorial Day weekend. We talked a little bit about first round, made some predictions. I know you had a couple pretty big points you wanted to bring up for the NBA. First, just quick discussion. We talked about the Celtics back when they were still in. I think I predicted that they were going to win 2 games.
The Celtics? Were they in the playoffs?
Doesn't feel like it.
Didn't look like they showed up.
Yeah, some major changes literally within 48 hours to the whole.
Yeah, you predicted they would win 2 games. I predicted they would get swept. They met in the middle. They won one off of Jason Tatum.
I also said something pretty big about Brad Stevens. I said I think he should be fired, and
Yes,
they didn't fire him, but he is no longer their coach. So
the Celtics did this nice thing where they didn't fire anyone, but like Ainge retired, chose to, and then they upgraded Brad Stevens to where like, hey, this organization is doing good. We're rewarding you, but you need to leave and you can't coach anymore.
Yeah.
Was the gist of it. And it'll be interesting to see what Brad Stevens does. It's just interesting. Like Brad Stevens is such a good coach. Like he should be coaching a basketball team.
Agreed. I really think he's best suited for college because that's where it's way more coaching. NBA is more managing egos. And I mean, if you listen to any Brad Stevens talks when it comes to coaching, like this guy is a coach. Like he is a damn good coach. And I'm just shocked he's sticking around in the NBA, to be honest. But,
well, I mean, when you get an opportunity to be a GM and make those decisions, or president of basketball operations, like I understand why he would do it. I hope he's successful. He seems like incredibly hardworking. I'm sure he will be. So,
yeah. All right, you wanted a couple NBA topics. I'm going to turn it over to you here.
I have a new segment here. It's we're gonna spin the wheel where I have this generated thing where we're gonna spin it. It has a list of NBA teams. Oh, that's weird. It's like reflecting off. So I'm gonna spin it, and it's gonna come up with one of the teams that are left in the playoffs, and we're gonna take turns. And Greg's gonna go first, and he has to, put himself in the body of one of the hometown fans of that area. And Greg's going to give the hot take of how they're feeling about their chances and their future in the playoffs. So we're really going to channel that energy. And Greg, you're going to go first. So I'm just going to spin this wheel. You're going to get a team at random from the teams left in the NBA playoffs. And you get, let you see. So I can't, it's kind of cutting out there. Brooklyn. You get Brooklyn.
We're going all the way. I got nothing to say about that. I mean,
hang on. Actually, no, I'm going to respin that because I just found out that Brooklyn doesn't have any fans. My bad, everyone. No one in New York cares about Brooklyn. They only like the Knicks. So we're going to spin it again because and I didn't pay for the free version, or I got the free version. So that's an ad coming up. This is how we spin. Okay, you got the Clippers.
Oh, that's a good one. The Clippers. They haven't even played game one yet, or that's tonight, right?
Yeah.
0-0.
But what are Clippers fans telling themselves right now?
Clippers fans, what are we telling ourselves? Just won a huge game 7. We're battle tested at this point in the playoffs. We got to face some adversity early. Got to be feeling good. Playoff P, Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, we're feeling good right now. Got one of the better young coaches in the NBA who always comes through in elimination games. We just knocked out Luka, right? So we got to be feeling good.
Okay.
I mean, do you feel like the Jazz are like a true 1 seed?
Is this coming from a Clippers fan, or are you asking that?
All right, this is coming from a Clippers fan. No one's afraid of the Utah Jazz. All right. We're the Clippers. We got one of the best players in the NBA, former NBA champion. The Jazz, they're not a real number 1 seed. We're not afraid of them. We're going all the way.
Okay. New Kings of LA, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Can I put my own hat back on now?
No, absolutely not. I'm spinning it for me, and I'm going to get stuck with the Bucks.
You're done.
Who right now we're losing by how much? How many points?
They were down like 30 earlier. So I think they're going to be down 0-2 in the series.
Hey.
Talk yourself into this, though. Talk yourself into this.
I don't know. If I'm a Bucks fan, am I talking myself into it? No. So
you're talking into wanting your coach getting fired.
We got to make some changes in the office. We need to change some personnel. We have the MVP of the league for 2 years ago. And, we keep having these playoff exits. We're underachieving. We need to shake things up. We need a new coach. We need to maybe make some trades. I mean, we got Drew Holiday, but maybe we need to ship Chris Middleton. He did not show up to game 1. He can be absent. People keep calling him underrated so much he became overrated. And he's great shooting the ball, but outside of that one heat shot, you can't really trust him sometimes. And I don't know. I can't be. You can't. You don't feel good as a Bucks fan right now.
You see a deal on eBay right now. Game 4 tickets are 67% off. Are you buying those tickets?
Yeah. So if I'm a Bucks fan trying to convince myself, this is what I say. I say, Harden might miss some more games. We're going to make adjustments. We got Drew Holiday's the lockdown defender. Chris Middleton can't be cold forever. We shot terrible from the 3-point line, so we can bounce back. We're having another terrible shooting performance tonight, and we're not going to have like 2 more of those. We're going to light it up. Giannis is going to do MVP things. He's still playing good. We can turn this thing around. We wait for the Brooklyn egos to destroy themselves, and we're going to make the adjustments needed. And right now, this is the NBA Finals, because I feel like the winner, as a Bucks fan, the winner of this series is going to win the NBA championship. I think that the Bucks and whoever. So right now, we're already in the NBA Finals. Right now, this is it. This is the preview. So if we win this series, because people can be like, oh, it's a second round exit, but really this is the NBA Finals. So if we win this, we're going to win the NBA Finals. We're going to come back in Game 3. We're going to come back in Game 4, just like the Clippers did. They were able to bounce back. We're going to do it. We're fine. We're making it happen. So that's my Bucks take.
And then the rest of the world saying the Bucks are going to lose 4-1. Maybe they'll win a game, but I think
maybe they'll win a game.
Yeah, maybe. I think they're done. Did you
right.
want to do another one of these teams, or do you want to move on to Dame and Lillard? Dame time.
Can I propose a fake trade to you real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kemba Walker's contract is atrocious, right?
Yes.
He has lost a step. The Celtics can go nowhere with Kemba on the roster. Would you agree?
Yes, but yes.
Okay. Yes. So you have to look at who are other players in the league that have a contract that someone would be willing to dump, that someone was like, hey, we're willing to take up that contract, and here's the player to replace him. There's not many that have a contract of that size. One person, let's say Bradley Beal, wants out of Washington. He goes to another team. Washington says, we need to rebuild. They offer Russell Westbrook for Kemba Walker.
Oh.
Would you say yes? And that's the only thing you can get for Kemba. You're either stuck with hobbled Kemba or Russell Westbrook goes to the Celtics.
Oh, can I get Chris Paul? My feelings about
the Suns are locking down. The Suns are
documented.
The Suns are locking down Chris Paul to an extension that he will be definitely playing out, and they'll regret in the later years.
I think you have to make that trade. I'm not a big fan of Russell Westbrook, and I think his playoff record. Are you getting any better? Honestly, are you making that deal?
Hey. Don't talk about a future Celtic like that. I don't know. I was just trying to find contracts that would work, and I was like, that's plausible, right? Like if Bradley Beal leaves, Washington's not going to keep Westbrook. They're going to try to ship him. They're going to try to find a thing to rebuild. They're going to want to lose games. Kemba helps them do that. Russell Westbrook does not help them lose games.
Is Kemba Walker better if Jason Tatum wasn't as ball dominant as he is right now?
No.
You don't think so? So you think the knee injuries?
I think he's lost a step. I think he's lost some confidence. I think that he can't do what he did before, and hopefully he bounces back. Hopefully I'm wrong, but
this was a very tough season to season for a guy who was injured. Very minimal break, long time off before, gets hurt. Barrett doesn't really have a real summer, not time to recover, goes into full season again.
I mean, here's the thing. I hope Kemba proves me wrong, but still, if Kemba's your third best player, you can't win a title. Not the Kemba that we have now, not even the Kemba we had last year, not with the NBA and the way that it is.
Agreed. But like my belief that Cam Newton can recover and get better, I'm going to hold out hope that Kemba Walker can regain a little bit here.
The hope is that Kemba Walker regains some trade value and we can ship him. That's the hope. Let's be honest. So let's go over to Dame Time Lillard, who, a disappointing exit for them. Dame, for people that knows, is pretty loyal to the city. Some people are already talking about, okay, do the Blazers, what do they do? Do the Blazers blow it up? Do they keep Damian Lillard? Do they start over? And it's one. So what do you think? Because should Dame die a hero or title chase long enough to see himself become a villain?
Okay, from Damian Lillard's standpoint, I think he should stay in Portland. I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I don't think some of these players that put up astronomical numbers can win championships. Luka puts up some of the best numbers we've ever seen, and he's out in the first round. Poor Porzingis looks like not even a glorified role player. And at one point, he was one of the better players in the NBA, an all-star. You look at what's happened with Lillard. It's a lot of first-round exits. You can look at Jason Tatum. He puts up phenomenal numbers, but with how ball dominant some of these guys need to be to put up some of these numbers, all these other guys around them are reduced to nothing. And if you look at some of Porzingis' comments over the last year, and I know I'm talking about Luka right now and not Lillard, he just says, like, when he has a good night, he would make comments like, yeah, the ball actually moved tonight. And it was very possibly unprofessional veiled comments, but I feel like this happened with the Celtics all year as well. I got to imagine it's happening in Portland as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of stars that simply wins just have not been there when you really need wins. So I'm not sure that some of this style, the style that makes some of these guys, these superstars, I don't know if it's good basketball. I don't know if it's championship winning basketball. In terms of what Lillard should do, that's why I think he should stay in Portland. I mean, he's always going to be able to put up these shots. He's going to put up great numbers. It seems like he's having fun. I mean, and maybe they find a way to make it work and get the right guys around it. But there's been a lot of different, very quality guys around him, and it's a lot of first-round exits that are really starting to mount up right now.
Well, I would say I would counter with this on a couple of things. That one, the roster that Damian Lillard has or Luka Doncic has is not good enough to win a title. Period. It's not good enough to get out.
We're talking first round exits right now.
Hang on. It's not good enough to get out of the first, maybe the second round of the playoffs. And Damian Lillard's teams have constantly overachieved. Like when he sent Paul George and Russell Westbrook home, the OKC had a much better team. Like if you switch Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard, OKC is winning that series. So Damian Lillard is over. He made the Western Conference Finals one year with this Blazers team that wasn't that great, much better than the one they have now, even if it was. So I think that there's this thing, and maybe this happens more in smaller markets, where it's like, yes, that style of basketball can be hurtful, or how far can you go? But when you have a better roster, pretty far.
But they're not going anywhere.
But they're not going anywhere because with that roster, because
a good player.
Yeah. Okay. CJ, good. They need more shooters. They need more things, and they can do more. My thing would be more around. Again, it's not like he's had this killer roster, or Luka has this
player too. He's going to command a huge market in free agency.
Yeah, but it's not like these guys have these like they're not title players. They're not like, you can't, unless CJ McCollum was playing next to prime LeBron, he can't be the second best player in the title.
Who do the Jazz have that are great players?
So, what have the Jazz done?
They're the first seed, best team in the Western Conference.
Okay, let's see if they make it out of the second round.
It's already farther than the Blazers, already farther than the Mavericks.
Yeah,
and the Jazz won games. They figured it out. Like these other
Blazers
guys
are winning games. The Blazers were winning a lot of games.
The 6th seed.
Yeah, they also struggled with injuries. You can look at Nurkic was injured a lot of the year. CJ McCollum was injured a lot of the year. Damian Lillard was injured a lot of the year.
What's the Mavs excuse?
They have Porzingis.
So you think this is winning basketball? This style, this isolation play. Like,
it's not that I don't.
That wins?
It's not that I don't think that it wins.
I throw Westbrook into this category as well.
No, it's. I'm just saying that there are a lot of rosters in the NBA that you just can't have an expectation for a title. You just can't. It's unrealistic. If you look at the Blazers roster, if you look at the Mavericks roster, if you looked at a lot of these rosters, they're not good enough to win a title. When you have Brooklyn Nets, or Brooklyn Ballers, when you have the Los Angeles Lakers, when you have these other teams, they're just not. So to hold them to that standard, it's not. If Luka gets a lot better, more pieces around him, if Dame gets him, and it looks more like a title team, and those are the aspirations. It's like the aspirations for the Portland. This team was never to win a title. Let's be honest. This Mavericks team wasn't to win a title.
I'm not talking about titles. I'm talking about first round. Like, not even they're not a contender.
But Damian went to the Western Conference Finals. So if we're going to talk about
I'm talking this year.
Okay, so we're only talking about winning basketball this year when they've won on other years.
Right,
so that style of play can win, and I think Luka's probably a year away from taking his team to the next second round or third round.
The next round.
He's 20 years old. He's like 22 years old. He's 22 years old. So I'm not buying credit. What I wanted to talk about, though, is there's this big thing right now of what should Dame do, and I think a lot of people start these conversations around. he should deserve a chance at a title because he's not on a roster that will give him that chance. Okay. And one, I was curious, would you rather be known as the greatest player of a franchise, go down as the greatest competitive player in that franchise history, like murals, like possibly statues or on all these things, and just have that legacy? Or would you rather chase a title and be like, well, I gave up that, but maybe I won a title on a stacked team, but I gave up a big piece of that hometown team legacy thing, almost like Kevin Durant did? What would you rather have?
If I was Damian Lillard, I would rather stay in Portland, because I think if he goes title chasing, he becomes a good role player. It also depends on what kind of other all-stars he's with, but I'd imagine he would have to end up with another guy where he's not going to come anywhere close to the kind of numbers he has. I could be wrong. There's been teams that have obviously found a way to make it work with multiple guys who are super ball dominant, like the Nets right now. But I'd say the odds of that are really low. If I was him, I'd probably be more happy tricking yourself into thinking you have a chance. Maybe you do go on a run. Like you said, they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Like he is, there's Dame time and it exists for a reason. Like maybe they go on an incredible run, but I think if he goes somewhere else, it's not going to be as pretty. I hope he stays in Portland or comes to Boston. You're welcome in Boston.
Yeah. And I, Portland
or Minnesota.
I think he should stay, because again, like if he goes to Boston, if he goes to Philly, if he goes to New York, a title's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, why leave the legacy and the franchise that gives you all this input when you're a king of a city, when you enjoy the people you play with, when you have say in who gets hired as a coach, when you have say over trades, when you have that kind of thing? Why would you leave for something that's not a sure thing? And even if it was a sure thing, would you necessarily want to? And here's where I'm going to go into my next point with titles. For me, don't mean as much on the resume as they used to. Right? Before in the NBA, it's like, well, Barkley never got a title. Well, Ewing never got a title. Well, like for a long time, David Robinson. And it was this thing, or Karl Malone, well, he didn't get the title. And where back then it was like you had your team and you were expected to get them. And if you could get that title, then you could, but that was on you. And the NBA has kind of changed where that's no longer what it's like, because now, you have Kevin Durant, for example, that goes and jumps, or LeBron James that goes and gets this team in Miami. And then he goes back to Cleveland when it's like that. And Kevin Durant goes to his 73-win Warrior teams and wins a couple titles. And it's like, okay, I got this on my resume, my Hall of Fame resume. And it's like, really? Like, are we impressed by that? Like Kevin Durant, you went to his 73-win Warrior team. Like I went to the middle school and dropped 40 on, 12-year-olds. Like, you don't see me bragging about it. Like no one's going to care. So for me, the thing of like titles on resumes, when we talk about players, doesn't have the weight or the gravity that it used to, because anyone, as we've seen, can get a title. You can go to Brooklyn and you can get Harden, another MVP, and Kyrie Irving, and then Joe Harris and Blake Griffin. And then they can all be like, look, we got our title. And it's like, who cares?
I do want to see playoff wins, though. Like, I want to see advancing the second round. Like, I'm not asking to be the best team in your conference.
Well, no, and I'm just talking about in general, not like in Damian Lillard. So I'm saying like the idea of players wanting to win a title or to have that on their resume, for me, doesn't mean as much. Like, it would mean more to me if Damian Lillard stayed competitive in Portland and kept competing and going to the first or second round and maybe getting to another Western Conference Finals and just balling out every night. And we get to see him be Dame instead of having to go, like you're saying, and take a reduced role. And maybe he wins a title on the other one, but I'm like, no, like Damian Lillard's great regardless. Anyone can get a title in today's NBA. I'm less impressed by that. And this would be my question. Like, for example, would you rather have Kevin Durant's two titles plus whatever he gets going forward with this year, or Dirk's championship?
I'd rather have Dirk's championship.
Dirk. Everyone would say that. Everyone would be like, I'd rather have Dirk's.
Be loved in that city forever.
Yeah, he's got his like logo on the court. Like what he did was so impressive to beat that Miami Heat team and to do that than any of Durant's championships. And I would rather have that one. It's like almost like when you're measuring it like accomplishment, like the size of the trophy, and Dirk's would be huge. And Kevin Durant would get like those little things you give kids for participation trophies. You're like, well, here you go. But so like all I'm saying is I think we need to reevaluate like the title as what it means to a resume, because people like will buff that up and be like, well, he doesn't have one, or he does, or he's got this. Like, so what? Like, I'm more impressed with Damian Lillard and what he's doing, and I think I just want him to stay in Portland. I want him to keep doing what he's doing. I want to see peak Dame waving people off the court. I want to see Dame time, that overtime, that spin move, step back, fade away 3-pointer to send it into double overtime was one of the most impressive shots I've ever seen. And I just think that when we evaluate players and their career achievements, the NBA, today's NBA, has diluted what it means to win a championship.
So I got one last question I want to ask you, but if you got another NBA thing you want to ask me, now's your chance.
No, ask away.
We're pushing up on an hour right now. It's about 2,000 degrees where I am. So normal people, it's not that bad, but when you're slowly becoming a Wisconsinite, 2,000 degrees is pretty tough right now. I think it's like 90 or something. So my last question of the night, and it's actually comes.
Oh, I did have a couple questions actually.
All right, fire away.
For example, going back to this thing real quick, do we think of Gary Payton any different because he won a championship on the Heat?
All right, Gary Payton, no.
Gary Payton's a great basketball player, like top 100 all time, but we don't think differently. And I just want to say this because when Brooklyn wins, and they're going to win the championship, if I had any team in the West, I would have said like something like on the spin the wheel of like, yeah, and if things break right and we work really hard, we can lose to Brooklyn in 6. But when Harden gets his championship, when Kyrie gets another, and Durant's like, oh, look, I did it on my own. It's just going to be like, these don't, when we talk about the totality of these people's careers, like I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, 3 championships. Look at that. I'll be like, yeah, you're a great player. Not to take away from their greatness. I'm not saying that none of these players are great. I'm just saying that titles don't mean as much on the resume anymore. That's all.
So my last question actually is kind of in the realm of this.
Okay.
Jason Tatum and both Luka, next 2 seasons, hypothetically, don't advance past the first round of the playoffs. How do you feel about them? And they put up the same kind of numbers they have the last 2 years.
I feel better about Luka than I do Jason Tatum. One, because Jason Tatum's in the East. Okay. So if you're not getting out of the first round of the East, that's very different from not getting out of the first round of the West. Right. Because the Mavericks might lose to the team that could be in the NBA finals. So in Kawhi and Paul George and a more talented roster. So I'm less concerned about Luka, who's a phenomenal transcendent player, than about Jason Tatum and the adjustments the Celtics have to make. And actually, I'm not even too worried about Tatum getting out of the East. I'm not too worried about Tatum next year because I think they got to do some rebuilding. I'd say if Tatum's not out of the first round in 2 years, I don't even know if I'm concerned because, again, how teams and players move around and how they stack teams, I have to see what the East looks like. And the Hawks are getting pretty good.
Phenomenal and transcendent if he's not getting out of the first round of the playoffs year after year.
Have you watched him play basketball?
I have, but at the end of the day, I watched Carmelo Anthony play for like 18 years. And there's
is this a take
there.
That you're comparing Carmelo Anthony to Luka
Doncic?
Player.
I'll compare Carmelo Anthony to Jason Tatum all day long. I do it all the time.
Okay.
So many isolation shots, possessions where the ball doesn't move at all. You might as well be playing with cones out there as teammates, and they become worthless. Doncic, no, completely different kind of player. But however, I'd say the offense at times is similar with the amount of times where it's just no one else touching the ball, and the results are also the same so far.
Well, hey, what was the text I sent you when the Mavericks were playing?
I don't remember.
It was the Mavericks. It looks like the Mavericks don't know how to play basketball without Luka Doncic on the floor. Like he was sitting at the beginning of the 4th quarter, and it was just like, okay, other Mavericks play basketball, and they were atrocious. It's like, oh,
but if your whole offense is around one guy, what do you expect? Like, I don't understand why you have expectation of that. If you do X for the all year, 90% of the time,
no, because they're used to getting that time, like Luka being off the court, and it's like they're NBA players. It's like,
Luka doesn't have to do anything in the playoffs, and he's still a transcendent player.
Not next year,
That's
no.
a big word with a lot of syllables. I said the next 2 years. You said he's still a transcendent player. I said if he doesn't win a first round playoff round the next 2 years, and you said, don't worry about him, he's still a transcendent
Michael Jordan
player.
struggled getting out of people do this. Like he's going to be 24 and 2 years old. He's really good at basketball, and we don't know the talent that's going to be around him next year. They have Porzingis contract that they have to unload. you know what? In 2 years, Greg, you can say that, and you might be able to write him off. But if you're like, hey, could the Celtics trade anyone for Luka Doncic? You're going to say, yes, sign me up. Who do we have to get rid of? You're going to be like, what do I have to give? Do I have to give my other kidney? Like, let's talk about it. Like
liver.
Liver. Well, no, you're gonna have to give a kidney for Luka. He demands more, and Luka's incredible. I'm not worried about him and his future in the NBA, even if he has a couple slow years. Just like I'm kind of not as worried about Zion if they struggle in the next couple of years. They're going to be great.
Carmelo Anthony had a long career, so yeah, no reason to worry about his career in the NBA.
For Jason Tatum, maybe, because Carmelo Anthony wasn't a playmaker and didn't know how to move the ball like Jason Tatum right now. Luka doesn't have that problem.
I'm much more concerned about Jason Tatum than Luka. For the record, I am a little bit concerned about Jason Tatum. I'm not writing him off by any stretch of the imagination, but a couple pause for concerns here. All right, that's our show this week. Appreciate everyone listening. We'll be back next Monday. Again, good luck to Eric. Big playoff game for Marshwood High School baseball. Tune in. We're on every single podcast platform. No trivia tonight. It's 10 o'clock Eastern already. We're pushing up on an hour. And yeah, enjoy the show.
Coast to Coast Podcast is hosted by Greg Gilmore. That's me, Phil Marino. The show is produced and roughly edited by yours truly. For feedback, you can always reach us via email at talkcoasttocoastpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's talkcoasttocoastpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.